$5 billion.
Yeah, it's a massive number.
Right. I mean, that is the amount of money 5 of the world's largest construction equipment manufacturers just quietly set on fire last year, all just to keep you from walking off their dealership lots.
Just completely absorbed it.
Exactly. It's like this phantom number lurking right behind the sticker price of literally every massive piece of heavy machinery out there. Like every excavator, front-end loader, bulldozer. We look at the MSRP and we just assume, oh, that covers the raw steel, labor, the tech, and like a clean little profit margin.
Right, the standard markup.
But the reality of the global supply chain has just completely turned that math upside down.
It really has. I mean, it is a staggering amount of capital to just let vanish into corporate margins. It perfectly illustrates how these macroeconomic levers, like international tariffs, create these massive subterranean shockwaves.
Yeah.
Because buyers out there are making million-dollar capital expenditure decisions based on sticker prices that are honestly entirely artificial right now.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
So welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to follow that hidden money. We are tearing into a big stack of market intelligence sources, including some really fascinating data from Smart Business Automator to figure out exactly how these international tariffs have just slammed into the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers. We want to know what this invisible $5 billion hit actually means for you, for anyone out there buying, renting, or just maintaining heavy machinery.
Yeah, and before we really dive into the raw data, we do need to establish some ground rules for this analysis because tariffs are intrinsically a really debated, deeply polarizing political tool, right? Trade policy gets people heated.
Oh, absolutely.
But for the purpose of this deep dive, we are totally tabling the politics. We are not taking sides. We're not evaluating the macroeconomic theory or the partisan arguments behind the tariffs.
Right. No politics today.
Exactly. We are strictly looking at the undeniable math on the balance sheets, the actual business realities facing these manufacturers, and just the raw mechanics of the global supply chain.
Okay, let's unpack this undeniable math then, because honestly, looking at the damage reports from 2025, it reads like a corporate disaster movie.
It really does.
Right. So Caterpillar, arguably the undisputed heavyweight champion of this stuff, they estimated their incremental tariff costs for 2025 at $2.6 billion.
It's a massive hit.
$2.6 billion. And that's for a company that manufactures a huge amount of its equipment right here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, it seems so counterintuitive that a domestic manufacturing giant would absorb the lion's share of an import tax.
Well, see, the assumption that a made in the USA sticker somehow magically insulates a machine from import tariffs, it kind of ignores the anatomy of modern heavy manufacturing.
How so?
Think about it like this. A 30-ton bulldozer is essentially a massive, incredibly rugged Swiss watch.
I love that comparison.
Right, because the final assembly of that machine might happen on a factory floor in Illinois, sure. But the thousands of little subcomponents required to make it actually run, those are pulled from a deeply interconnected global web.
So it's not just the big parts.
No, not at all. Caterpillar is importing specialized high-tensile steel, aluminum, complex hydraulic valves that are forged in very specific foundries overseas, plus, microchips for their telematics systems, and even fully finished compact equipment from their own facilities in Japan or China or Europe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the tariffs don't just target the fully assembled machine rolling off a cargo ship. They're aggressively taxing the thousands of individual specialized parts crossing the border long before they ever reach that Illinois assembly line.
Okay, so it's basically death by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly.
The chips, the hydraulics, the metal, it just all aggregates into this massive penalty.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not just Caterpillar taking the hit either. Like, the market intelligence shows John Deere is forecasting a $1.2 billion pre-tax expense for their 2026 fiscal year.
Yep.
Komatsu estimated their full year costs at $580 million, which makes sense since they import a ton directly from Japan and Asia.
Right.
Then you've got Kubota taking a $420 million negative impact on operating profit. They lean super heavily on importing compact equipment. And Volvo CE took a $54 million hit in just their third quarter alone.
And that's projecting up to $100 million for the fourth quarter.
Exactly. So if you annualize that, Volvo CE is eating somewhere between $250 and $350 million a year. And you add all that up, and you easily clear that $5 billion mark.
It's unbelievable.
But looking at the John Deere data, I noticed a really strange anomaly. Their construction and forestry division got hit way, way harder than their agricultural division.
Yeah, it's a huge disparity.
Why is that? Like if I run a bakery and the cost of flour triples, I have to raise the price of my bread immediately. Why wouldn't a massive agricultural combine get hit with the same tariff penalty as a construction backhoe?
Well, it really comes down to the fundamental DNA of the machines and the extreme environments they're engineered to survive in. It's the nuance of raw materials versus finished goods.
Okay, break that down for me.
So a combine harvester is an absolute marvel of modern engineering, no doubt. But it's operating in a relatively predictable dirt field.
Right.
A forestry feller buncher, on the other hand, or a heavy-duty rock excavator, those things take a catastrophic physical beating every single day.
Yeah, they're tearing through solid rock.
Exactly. So those machines require really specific, incredibly wear-resistant grades of steel and heavy-duty hydraulic components that are disproportionately sourced from highly specialized overseas foundries.
I see.
Yeah, the agricultural division, while it's still impacted by general supply chain friction, of course, it just relies on a different mix of materials that happen to have less exposure to these specific import taxes.
That makes total sense. Heavy construction gear just demands a recipe of materials that you almost can't source entirely within one border.
Right.
But this actually leads me to a massive contradiction in the market data. Yeah, because if $5 billion vanishes from the balance sheets of these 5 companies, logic dictates that building new equipment just became insanely expensive, right?
Following the math, yes.
So if costs skyrocket, sticker prices should skyrocket. And if new prices go through the roof, every contractor in the country should be scrambling to buy up used equipment to avoid the premium.
That's what you would expect.
But the market intelligence shows that hasn't happened. There hasn't been this massive, desperate rush to the used market. Why not?
Well, what's fascinating here is a metric called price realization.
Price realization.
Yeah, it's a vital health indicator that OEMs monitor constantly. Basically, it measures the net difference between the official listed sticker price of a machine and the actual final revenue the manufacturer records after all the dealer handshakes, the incentives, the negotiations.
Okay.
And the data shows that price realization across the industry is dropping significantly.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The OEMs actually did raise their official sticker prices to account for the incoming tariffs. But simultaneously, entirely behind the scenes, they drastically increased their aggressive dealer discounting to maintain their market share.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So they are artificially inflating the MSRP, so it looks like they're passing on the cost.
Right.
But then the dealer just slashes the price at the point of sale to keep the buyer from walking away.
Essentially, yes. They are actively choosing margin compression over market share erosion.
They're buying their own market share by bleeding their own cash.
Exactly. Because in the heavy equipment industry, losing a customer to a competitor today doesn't just mean losing the profit on one excavator.
Right, it's a long game.
It means losing a decade of highly lucrative replacement parts and service revenue. So to prevent buyers from fleeing to the used market or migrating to a rival brand, the OEMs are deliberately absorbing the multi-billion-dollar tariff hit themselves.
I mean, I'm looking at this strategy and it just seems completely absurd. Pushing paper around and playing games with dealer discounts like, sure, it's a fantastic deal for the buyer today, but it's a ticking time bomb for the manufacturer.
It's totally unsustainable.
Right. You cannot set $5 billion on fire every year just to spite your competitors. Eventually, you hit a breaking point. You either have to pass that raw cost directly to the buyer, lay off workers, close factories, or start building cheaper, lower quality machines. Right.
You're exactly right. And the OEMs are acutely aware that bleeding cash indefinitely is impossible. This aggressive discounting is really nothing more than a temporary dam holding back a flood.
While they figure out what to do.
While they execute a much larger strategic pivot, they're realizing they can't change the tariff structure, so they are fundamentally changing not just how they price, but where they physically build the machines.
Which brings us to a massive capital shift highlighted in the sources. Instead of just sitting there taking margin squeeze, companies are redrawing the map.
Completely redrawing it.
Look at JCB. The intelligence highlights this massive $500 million project by JCB to build a 1 million square foot manufacturing facility in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah, employing like 1,500 people.
It's huge.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, reshoring is the ultimate and arguably unintended silver lining for the domestic construction industry.
Oh, for sure.
By building that massive footprint in Texas, JCB sidesteps those import tariffs entirely. The final assembly, the integration of a localized supply chain, it all happens inside the U.S. border.
which is incredibly ironic if you think about it.
Guess so.
The tariffs penalizing construction equipment are directly spurring major domestic industrial construction projects. Like contractors are being hired using heavy equipment to build the very factories that will manufacture the next generation of heavy equipment.
It's a perfect loop. It really is.
But, so what does this all mean for the listener? If I'm a fleet manager looking at this data, I see a radically divided future.
A bifurcated market.
Exactly. This sources suggest we are rapidly approaching this bifurcated market over the next 2 to 3 years. You're going to have domestic manufacturers, companies heavily investing in massive U.S. production footprints like Cat, Deere, and soon JCB. They're going to gain a permanent structural cost advantage. Meanwhile, the heavy importers brands like Kubota, Komatsu, Volvo, CE, they're going to be dragging this heavy tariff anchor behind them.
Yeah, and that completely alters the value proposition of every brand out there. A brand that was historically known as the reliable, budget-friendly option might suddenly become the most expensive iron on the lot.
Just because their supply chain is trapped on the wrong side of the tariff wall.
Exactly. The competitive hierarchy is being entirely rewritten. Your historical reputation for pricing means nothing if your core components are hit with a 25% import penalty.
So if I'm listening to this and planning my Q3 equipment budget, how much time do I actually have before this dam breaks?
Well, the sources lay out a very specific timeline. In the short term, we're talking the next 6 months, we are sitting in a golden window.
A golden window.
Yeah, prices will remain relatively stable, but solely because the OEMs are still playing that game of aggressive discounting. They're still eating the margin compression.
But that window is closing.
Very rapidly. Looking out 6 to 18 months into the medium term, the bill finally comes due.
Right.
The manufacturers just can't absorb a $5 billion annual deficit forever. So the market data projects 5 to 15% price increases on new equipment as those accumulated costs are permanently passed through to the buyer.
And contractors can't just dodge the bullet by hiding in the rental market either.
No, definitely not.
The sources are super clear that rental rates will spike 5 to 10% over the next 12 months.
Yeah, because those massive rental conglomerates have to constantly cycle and replace their aging fleets.
Exactly. When their acquisition costs jump 15%, they immediately pass that premium down to the daily and weekly rental rates. It hits the local contractor who doesn't even own a single machine.
It really is like a high-stakes game of musical chairs.
Yeah, and the music stops in exactly 6 months. But here is the trapdoor that I think most people are completely missing.
What's that?
What if I'm not buying new? What if I already own a fleet of 50 imported machines that I bought 3 years ago? I might think I'm safe, but how does this hit the parts and maintenance side of my business?
Oh, that's the real kicker. Because tariffs do not exclusively target the shiny new excavator on the showroom floor.
Right.
They hit the replacement parts too. The hydraulic pumps, the specialized filters, the undercarriage wear parts.
Ouch.
Yeah. If a fleet consists heavily of imported iron, your routine maintenance costs are about to rise sharply because those specific replacement parts get hit by the identical import taxes.
So a maintenance budget calculated using data from 2 years ago is now dangerously obsolete.
Completely obsolete. This mandates a totally new financial strategy from equipment owners.
Okay, so if I'm a fleet manager and this 6-month golden window is closing, I can't just sit here and wait for the price hikes to destroy my operating budget.
You need an action plan.
Exactly. What levers can I actually pull right now? Looking at the source data, we can build a very specific playbook for 2026.
Let's hear it.
Step 1. Stop looking at the sticker price, because as we've established, it is currently a fiction. Buyers need to rigorously calculate the 5-year total cost of ownership, the TCO.
Absolutely essential.
You have to factor in the initial purchase price, the financing rates, fuel, operator costs, and crucially, this new inflated maintenance and parts reality, plus the projected residual value when you want to sell it.
The TCO equation is literally the only metric that matters now. A machine that looks like a bargain on day one because of dealer discounting might just hemorrhage capital by year 3.
Because the imported parts cost a fortune. All right, step 2 in the playbook. Buy American, but do it strategically. And by that, I mean buyers have to interrogate their dealer about where the specific model they are purchasing is manufactured, not just where the brand is headquartered.
That's a great distinction.
Right. Because a company with a gleaming headquarters in the Midwest might still import a highly popular line of compact track loaders from overseas. That specific model carries the tariff premium, regardless of the logo on the side.
Yeah, origin of the iron is the critical factor. Buyers must demand component-level transparency.
Step 3. Lock in your parts inventory immediately. If a fleet relies on imported gear, the smartest move right now is to pull your historical maintenance data and aggressively pre-purchase common wear parts today.
Before the supply chain price hikes hit the dealership's parts department.
Exactly. Get ahead of it. And step 4, rethink the entire philosophy of leasing versus buying. We are entering this bifurcated market where the residual value of heavily imported machines might just plummet.
That's a really good point.
Think about it. In 5 years, who is going to want to buy a used imported loader if the replacement parts cost a fortune? By leasing, the fleet manager transfers that entire residual value risk over to the lessor. Let them worry about what the machine is worth at auction in half a decade.
And, executing any of these strategies, like calculating a dynamic TCO or analyzing historical parts consumption, this raises an important question.
What's that?
Are you holding on to idle equipment? Because doing any of this requires flawless, instantly accessible data. You can't optimize a schedule or calculate tariff exposure if your project data is buried in some chaotic mix of spreadsheets and siloed emails.
Oh man, tell me about it. This is exactly where the intelligence from Smart Business Automator comes into play. I know fleet managers who are practically drowning in PDFs trying to manually track which of their 50 machines are imported versus domestic.
It's a nightmare.
It is. The sources highlight AI platforms like Smart Business Automator specifically built to eliminate that data chaos. When margins are squeezed this tightly, you need document intelligence.
Yeah, you need a system that automatically ingests and categorizes daily reports and maintenance logs.
Exactly. Instead of spending 3 days building a spreadsheet, a fleet manager can use natural language search to just ask their database, what is our current maintenance cost variance on the imported fleet versus the domestic fleet? And instantly get a precise answer.
And integrating that level of data visibility naturally extends to telematics.
Right.
Telematics data provides the exact utilization rates for every machine. If an asset is sitting idle 40% of the time, and the replacement cost of that class of machine just jumped 15%.
The financial penalty for owning that idle iron is steeper than it's ever been.
Exactly. Companies have to use that utilization data to relentlessly right-size their fleets. Sell off the underutilized assets now while used prices are stable, or actively redeploy them.
Because if they don't adapt, the used market is going to tell the story for them. The intelligence predicts we'll inevitably see fleet liquidations from contractors who overleveraged themselves, failed to recalculate their TCO, and just got crushed by the hidden maintenance costs.
Which becomes a prime value buy opportunity for the agile contractor who actually tracked their data.
Absolutely. So just boiling all of this down for you. $5 billion was quietly absorbed by OEMs in a single year to shield buyers from tariffs.
Yeah.
But that era of corporate charity is over.
Coming to a hard stop.
The bill is coming due in the next 6 to 18 months. So smart buyers are using this brief window to lock in pricing, pre-purchase parts, and use advanced data integration to completely recalculate their strategies.
Leaving the immediate financial data behind for a second, there's a broader implication here that I think is really worth mulling over.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if these tariffs permanently force heavy machinery to be manufactured domestically rather than globally, like we're seeing with that massive JCB plant in Texas, will this forced localization lead to an era of hyper-customized equipment?
Hyper-customized, how do you mean?
Well, global manufacturing historically relies on standardization to achieve scale, right? Building one universally acceptable machine that works well enough in the mud of Europe, the heat of Asia, and the varied terrain of the Americas.
Right, a jack-of-all-trades machine.
Exactly. But if US-based factories are no longer completely reliant on sprawling global supply chains, they might begin churning out machinery specifically tailored to regional American climates.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
Yeah. Imagine equipment engineered specifically for the distinct soil types of the Midwest versus, say, the punishing rocky terrain of the Northeast.
Yeah.
simply because the R&D and manufacturing are finally sitting in our own backyard.
It could inadvertently spark a renaissance in highly specialized, regionally optimized engineering.
Exactly.
A machine perfectly evolved for the specific dirt it works in, born entirely out of a shift in international trade policy.
It's a fascinating ripple effect.
It really is incredible how a phantom number hidden behind a sticker price can end up fundamentally changing the very shape of the tools we use to build the world.
Couldn't have said it better.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Pull your maintenance logs, recalculate those TCOs, and as always, stay curious.